We just need the Matt Hoffman BMX games to come back now. Unlike the last video, I am actually going to be talking about Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 this time. They've recently released and it's been a long awaited. I mean, it was the Xbox One generation when the first remakes came out of 1 and 2. They were great, they were really fun, but do these ones carry on that same hype and excitement, or were they actually a little bit washed? It's really hard to talk about both of these games together because they are very different. Even though they're Tony Hawk's games, which are the really arcadey skate games out there, but they're great fun though because of that. They're insane, they are crazy, doing tricks that make no sense to man nor beast, but they're just fun. And that's what they should be, really, is just fun games. But is it worth reinvesting in them is the question. And the reason they're so different is because Tony Hawk's 3 followed the same sort of formula that 1 and 2 had prior to that, where you had 2-minute timers and a bunch of challenges that you did during that time. Tony Hawk's 4, on the other hand, had a bit more of an open world feel to it, where you'd skate around the level and then you would talk to civilians and NPCs there to gain the quests, and I say quests, you know what I mean, the challenges that you had to do. You don't do that in this one. They've put a timer on it. And it's really weird because it doesn't really feel like Tony Hawk's 4. Kind of just feels like an extension of 3. I'll get more into it. We'll start off with 3 because that was obviously the first one that I played out of the bunch here. And straight away I had all the nostalgia come back to me. When I first had this game, I played it on my GameCube. And just like I did back then, I played this game with a D-pad because for some reason analog sticks and this don't sit well with me, but D-pad gave me a lot more control. I blame it on the fact that I play a lot of fighting games when I was younger, so D-pad was just the default for me there. But yeah, playing it on the D-pad, it just brought back all my memories that I had from a kid. It definitely didn't have all the nostalgia though. It kind of felt a little bit formulaic. It kind of felt this could have been an expansion to number 1 and 2. The menu system didn't have any of the charm that the original ones had. It was just a little bit boring in that respect. The gameplay on 3 was great though. It played exactly like I remember it playing. And it was really fun to go back to some of those older levels like Canada and the airport and just have fun reliving them again and seeing them in this new sort of high-res remade world. It was really good and it really did spark off that nostalgia for me. Playing 4 on the other hand didn't really have the same effect. Everything felt different and these just kind of felt like levels that had been adapted to fit the Tony Hawk's 1, 2 and 3 sort of framework of 2-minute runs. Didn't have that same charm. It kind of felt a little bit rushed. Didn't really make me feel like I was playing those games again, and they're quite boring when you're just doing them in 2-minute sections because those levels were never designed for that. So they don't feel like the game used to feel. It feels like a different version of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4. That's not what we all signed up for. That's not to say it's a bad game or anything. It's still Tony Hawk's, but it's just not the Tony Hawk's 4 that we all remember. Graphically, I've got no complaints with how this game looks. It is exactly how I'd expect a Tony Hawk's game to look given how 1 and 2 looked. It's really good, really clean, really crisp. Nothing too crazy on it, but it runs at a really smooth frame rate. There were a couple of jitters when I started playing Foundry and a couple of levels on 3, but nothing that took it out of the game. It was really, really smooth, really fun, really consistent. No issues there. However, the issue of the presentation does come to the soundtrack, and I'm not the only one to mention this, but there's so much missing. 1 and 2 did a really good job of bringing back that pretty much whole catalogue of songs that got most of us in our early teens really amped to play these games. 3 and 4 doesn't do that. There's a handful of songs from previous titles there, but a lot of them are new songs and they don't really fit with the vibe. And it's not to say that they're not good songs to skate and listen to, but they just don't fit with the Tony Hawk's vibe. There's more than a couple of songs that should have been in there. It's just really weird, but I know that licensing is a massive part of getting these songs into games, and sometimes you just can't get the licenses again for them. And it's sad because there were some absolute bangers on that soundtrack originally and only a few of them made it in. The new songs are good, but they're just not Tony Hawk's 3 and 4. But then it comes to the content there. Is there enough content there to make it a worthwhile purchase, or is it something that Game Pass is the best option for it? I'm gonna say it's Game Pass for me. I'm playing it on Game Pass now, but would I pay for this game full price? Probably not, no, because I've done pretty much everything I want to do with it. There's not really much else left for me to discover or play again, unless I want to start 100% in everything. I've unlocked all I need to unlock. There's nothing special left there anymore. It's really weird because I'm not saying I'm really, really good at Tony Hawk's games, but once you get the formula down and you understand how the game works, it can become quite easy to do. But even still, there's still no really hard challenges or anything like that. It took me a couple of hours to breeze through 3 and a few more hours to breeze through 4. Like, obviously I've not done 100% on everything, but yeah, I'm just not wanting to go back and play more of it. I played with a custom skater all the way through, added stat points to him as we went, changed his moves, which is a really good thing as well. You can actually change all the moves that a character has. So you haven't got to just do a kickflip with the button. You could change that to a different trick, which is really nice for customization, but doesn't really do much aside from that. Character options, they are great. There's so many pro skaters to choose from, way more than the first one, but the character select screen just feels kind of like a fighting game, really. In the old ones, you used to scroll through the characters and see them pop up on the screen, and even, I think it was 3, you had the half pipe at the back of the shop that everyone was skating on. It was really good. It might have been 4, I'm not sure. I think it was 3. It doesn't have any of that character. It's just a really boring menu system that you go through. And there's challenges to do as well. So if you were someone who wants to 100% everything, there's a ton of challenges here to sink your teeth into, which is good for completionists, but you don't need to finish them. You don't need to go for them. There's a couple of secret characters in the shop as well, one being a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, one being Bam Margera, who you unlock really early on, and I never played him. I didn't play as any of the pros, I just played as my created skater the entire way through because I didn't need to play as one of the pros, because your skater can learn all the tricks. There's no special tricks that they can't do. So I didn't see the point. Just invest the stat points into my character and buff them up, and then happy days. Granted, again, if I wanted 100% everything, there's a lot of options there for it, but the game didn't make me want to do that. Like when I played Expedition 33, I wanted to get as much out of that game as possible. The game made me want to do that. Tony Hawk's just doesn't give me that same vibe. It doesn't make me want to keep on playing it. Now, there are a bunch of gameplay modifiers you can choose as well, which I only discovered whilst I was capturing footage for this. I didn't realise they were there to start off with. You got all the perfect things like perfect stats, rail balance never runs out, your perfect manuals, always got special, things like that. You've even got modifiers for the actual score, so you can double the base points of stuff. You can even increase the game's speed. I played it at 3 times speed. I think I got about 2,000 points in the whole run. It was the lowest scoring run I've ever had on that game. It was so weird and so hard to play. Why that's in there, I don't know. But the other thing you can do is you can lengthen the run time. So if you are someone who is struggling with that 2-minute time limit, you can have up to 60 minutes in a level, which I guess is a way of them getting around Tony Hawk's 4 not being a free roaming game like it used to be. It's still not the same thing. And in the secret shop, you can also then get modifiers for the game. You can get graphics packs for it, you can get outfits to wear. There's loads of stuff in there that you can purchase, but does it really change much aside from the aesthetic? Not really. Characters have a lot of clothing that they can choose. There's a lot of big brands here, but there's a lot of stuff missing as well, or stuff that wasn't obvious that it was hidden. So there's a lot of brands that I thought I'd see, which I didn't, which is a little bit disappointing, but the stuff that is here does look pretty cool. I just wish there were a few more customization options, because the characters all look really young. And let's be honest, most of us who are playing this game, and most people who were originally in this game, are no longer spring chickens. So with all that said, is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 a good game? It's not bad. Is it brilliant? No. Is it Game of the Year contender? Also no. But is it fun? Yeah, it is fun. But is it worth paying full price for it? I'm going to go out on a limb here and say no. Now, I know this is 2 videos in a row where I've been a little bit negative about games, and trust me, I'm not someone who likes being negative. I don't want to come across as someone on YouTube who is just making negative viewpoints, but I wanted to share my thoughts on this game whilst it was fresh with me. It's just not a game that I'd rush out to pay for. If I could get it on a subscription service, like I've got it on Game Pass, if you can find it on another subscription service if you haven't got Game Pass, then great. But yeah, I wouldn't pay full price for it. Play it on a subscription, enjoy it whilst you can, and then get rid of it and move on to something else, because I don't see it having the staying power that the originals did. I don't know if it's just because our attention spans are very different now, or life is just very different for a lot of us, but this really isn't the game that I wanted it to be. But it kind of is what I expected it to be. And the inclusion of that SpongeBob part was still really weird.